Hey everyone. So, thank you for joining for the second part of the series. Today we'll be talking about security operations centers. So, most of the folks have already heard it, but just to give an idea like what SOC is like. So, security operations centers, also calls in certain companies cyber defense center. Um, so, SOC team is responsible for day-to-day monitoring, detection, and response to security incidents. They usually work in 24 by 7 coverage model, um, depending on the business size, operations, and other factors. And they are like the first, not like, but they are actually the first human line of defense for any company against cyber threats. Okay. So whenever we talk about attack, whenever we talk about defense part of the company, it's usually the SOC that take cares of it. They are usually the first point of contact for any user reported activities. If someone is something, they report it to SOC. So SOC is like the first point of contact for any security related issue that they observe in the company. So let's talk more about like what are the common rules that are available in security operation center or SOC. Okay, so first and the main important role is security analyst. So when we talk about security analysts, they are the guys who are watching the screen 24 by 7, and triaging any alert that comes in a tool called security information and event management or SIM. They are usually the first level responder for any alerts that are coming in their way, and they are responsible for communicating alert or escalating alert to higher ups if they see something weird or suspicious. Um, Usually they have three models, like first party model where they are owned by the company, or I should say like the resources working for the company. It can be 3P where a company has outsourced the entire monitoring of security to some other company, usually like an MSSS model. um, then it can be mix of both. Like L1 can be a third party where like they are ensuring 24 by 7 coverage is there, and if something weird is seen, um, the SOC L2 or SOC L3 usually are company's resources or itself, who are specialists in handling, and they are like they don't want to work 24 by 7, but they are um, ensuring that okay, something serious is there, pages anytime. um so yeah, so that's usually like they work. Model wise, they work 24 by 7 as I told earlier. um, okay, moving on to the next role. Incident responders are responsible for investigating and responding to security incidents in timely and effective manner. When I say investigating, responding, it means they are taking care of any security alert that's been escalated to them for deeper dive. So they ensure that investigation is done, containment is done, eradication is done, remediation is done, recovery is done, and lessons are learned out of it, so that incident or security alerts never repeats. So that's the main job, to take ownership, drive security alert incident. Usually it's the incident because alerts usually are handled by security analysts, and the incident is taken care from end to end, including all the stages that I talked about earlier. Now, incident response can be again first party, third party, or mix. Like there can be an incident responders who are owned. Oh, sorry. Again, I'm using the wrong term. They are working for the same company. They can be outsourced. So if the company don't want to maintain the technical staff itself, or so they can outsource it to some other company. MSS model again. Um, then it can be mix of them. So L1 or initial incident responders can be MSS team, and then higher ones can, or super specialist one can be the one that are working for the company itself. So they are like 1P. Incident response team usually work for 5 days a week, usually as an usual employee, but they do have an on call model. So if in case some incident happen on alert that require immediate investigation or deep dive, they can be paged and reached out. So let's move to the next one, threat intel team. This people might have already heard about, but threat intel team, just to give an idea, they are responsible for gathering, analyzing, and sharing information about potential emerging cyber threats, attack techniques, or vulnerabilities. They are the one who keeps an eye on the news, like, hey, how our sector of industry looks like. Are any of our competitors, any partners, any suppliers, vendors are getting affected by any of such vulnerabilities? Are there any vulnerabilities known in the tools that are being used by attackers and are actively exploited? Are there any 0 days in the market? What kind of attack threat actors we are looking towards, like my company is vulnerable to, or what can be targeting us? So they keep an eye on the news, they keep an eye outside, like, hey, what's happening outside, and whom can I be targeted by? um, so that's how usually threat intel team works. um, they can be again first party working for the company, or third party, someone else providing threat intel for you, doing the job for you. You're just paying them, that, hey, I want this relevant data. uh, Give me this data as per the SLAs, whatever. They are also again working on 8 into 5 model, 5 days a week, 8 hours in a day. But they can be invoked for 7 emergencies, like if there's a critical incident going on, there is something discovered in the environment, and you want to ask a threat intel team that, hey, which threat actor it might be related to. So you might invoke threat intel team for emergency cases, but not that, usually very rare. um, the next role will be threat hunters. So threat hunters are usually similar to incident response, but they are looking for threats actively, proactively, without waiting for a security event to happen or security incident to happen. They will be searching for threats and vulnerabilities that may have been missed by automated security tools. And I say automated security tools, and I will talk about that later on in detail. If let's say, you are assuming that threat actor is already present in your environment and has been bypassing antivirus, so what kind of things you can look into to find the threat actor before it reaches its target or objective? So that's usually the job of threat hunters. It's commonly known in the outside that threat hunters is even a further role that incident response, but that's true to some extent. Many of the security companies have dedicated threat hunting team to look for badness or suspicious activities across their client environments. It's a highly specialized skill set. They will be sorting out through large data sets. You can look into terabytes, 100 terabytes, or even more than that. And you'll be looking for suspicious activity, correlating them against other activities, and so on. So you need to have data analytics skills in that case, or at least you need to have mindset like how an attackers work. They usually work again first party or third party model, and they are usually like 8x5 model as well. But they can be, when I say 7 emergency, they can be invoked during a critical incident when incident response team discovers something that, hey, this was being done by our the threat actor in our environment. Threat hunting team can be asked that, hey, look into this TTP further deep down, like, hey, do you find any traces of similar activities before the incident actually happens? So you can have a timeline that how long the attackers were in the environment. Next one, forensics teams. People might have already heard about digital forensics. So they are like the forensics guy, but in for computers, obviously. Forensics is a criminal investigation field out there. It's widely matured. But digital forensics is a buzzword, you can say, that's there, but only for computer investigations. So forensic teams are highly trained. They are usually looking into security incidents, um, and they are usually looking into collecting and analyzing digital evidences. For example, if there is a potential insider threat that have been detected by someone, and report it to incident response team or forensics teams. They can collect the data from that machine of the user, to look into signs of maybe data exfiltration, signs of suspicious outgoing communications, suspicious behaviors, like they are logging into servers which they are not supposed to do, or they are working outside their usual work hours. So they can be looking into other things, for a sign of potential risk to the company. Then there can be a policy violation, it can be a sexual harassment case or anything like that. So forensic team will be usually looking into the digital evidence around this kind of stuff, related to incident obviously. um, and then they will be working closely with legal team to ensure that the integrity of the evidence is maintained. So they usually work with legal team, that and then they comply with all legal laws, local legal laws as well, local law enforcement agencies. Yeah. um, Usually I've seen forensics team for smaller companies are outsourced. They are on demand, they are on a contract basis, they are usually third party. So if when and if required, and usually it's not required, um, the forensics part is outsourced to an service provider. For a large company where you want to set up a lab sort of model, you have a first party own team, but then in that case there is an overhead of maintaining the tools, maintaining the special skills, maintaining the documentation, maintaining the all other practices and processes related to forensics. So it's an overhead, but for a larger company it's good to have it internally, because then you don't have to worry about data being going outside, or there's a reduced chance of having a leak uh, about the potential internal cases. um, Foreign systems usually work 8 into 5 model, same as above teams. But when during an incident investigation, they might be even working more than 12 hours, 15 hours, 16 hours to potentially look into signs of weird activities, or investigating a case, forensics case. The last component is malware analysis team. They are responsible for analyzing and reverse engineering malware. It's a cool job but complex one. So you need to know how malware works, how to deobfuscate the malware, how to reverse engineer a binary. And when I say binary, it can be Windows, Mac OS, or it can be Linux binary. So it's a highly specialized job, I would say, um, and requires certain tools, certain a lot of highly specialized skills to work on. But yeah, uh, usually they work like first party and third party model again. Not many teams usually, instant responders usually have this sort of skill set, but they are not also like um, deep into malanalysis like a third party or bigger companies would have that. Since we have talked about malanalysis, now let's jump into the next one topic, that's the tools that SOC team uses usually, or keeps a eye on. So SOC team monitors a lot of stuff. Okay, when I talk about a lot of stuff, so for example, for endpoint, they might be monitoring antivirus logs, they might be monitoring EDR, they might be monitoring data loss prevention tool, DLP, we call it, proxy for user activities, what they are visiting, what they are submitting, did anybody visited the phishing website. So proxy logs are for that. They can also be monitoring IT management tools, like inventory management and other stuff like that, where the IT tool uses which like the IT tool uses for day-to-day operations. They will also be monitoring network related stuff like emails, like what emails are flowing in, going out, what kind of where they are received from, who they are sent to, do they have any attachment, what's the size of the attachment, what's the file name, other stuff related to email. They can be also monitoring firewall logs for communications, internal and external both. IDS, IPS for potential attacks that are happening. DLP, again network based DLP. They can also be monitoring web application firewall logs, WAF, and they can be also monitoring endpoint discovery tools, local scanners and stuff like that. Um, They will also be monitoring IMD related tools. By that I mean Active Directory. Um, that's the most important part to be monitored in a Windows environment, definitely. They will also be monitoring Privileged Entity Management Tool or PIM, SSO logs, and other internal document repositories or code repositories, like who is accessing, you know, and other stuff like that, operations around it, etc. Um, Now there is also a new domain in security that's being in the picture. That's cloud. So SOC will also be monitoring cloud alerts, cloud logs. I don't want to name any vendor, any tools, but just get an idea that okay, there are tools on cloud that generates alert, generate logs depending on the cloud service provider, and there are certain apps that generate data for you, or there can be apps that are running on servers that are hosted in cloud, and those apps also are monitored through the logging that's enabled on those servers. um, Apart from cloud, they will also be monitoring threat intel. um, Threat intel has to be correlated with internal logs to see if we are communicating to any malicious IP. Are we have someone visited any malicious domain? um, Usual stuff, low hanging fruits. All this data goes into a tool called Security Information and Event Management, SIM. Read about it on the internet. I will not be explaining it. You can even watch other videos for that. SIM in a gist is basically a log collector, and where a security detection and response team or SOC team write detections specific to the environment. For example, hey, if I have an Active Directory, I might be monitoring for failed logins that are happening from a single source IP in a high amount. Maybe let's say 20 systems, 20 user accounts are attempted to log in from a single IP in a matter of minute. So that's a simple detection that I might be writing and monitoring it for. So if someone triggers the detection, I know there's something bad happening. Um, so SIM is usually used for collating all logs, um, writing detections, um, and monitored by security analyst and other teams, and used by other teams obviously. um, the next level of maturity usually is SOAR. SOAR is security automation response, which helps SOC team to enrich data from various sources. For example, if you got an alert in your SIEM that malicious IP has been communicated, which is correlated with threat intel team. So for example, firewall logs are correlated with your threat intel. Now, if you want to see whether it's actually bad, which threat actor is associated to, so you can start enriching information through SOAR. When I say enriching information, you can query a service provider to give me reputation of that IP. So now you are moving one step ahead, because SOC analyst usually does this job when they're investigating the incident or alert. um, they will be looking into more information, like hey, what is this IP, what's the expected communication, and other stuff like that. So SOAR actually helps you automate all this kind of stuff, first level responder job, um, to collect and enrich the information. And um, now it's up to the organization if they actually want to take a call basis that initial information itself. So for example, if you see that malicious IP is associated with a threat actor, and you want to take an automated action basis the reputation results that you have written from the service provider. Let's say the service provider says it's 80% malicious, and you have a defined playbook that says okay, if my logic, so my playbook, that is basically logic, says if you find IP reputation uh, is you know worse than 70%, immediately block on firewall. So SOAR will do it for you. So there is a piece of automation involved, but let's not talk more on SOC. SOAR. So SOAR is basically automation of certain aspects of SOC. Um, so let's just finish that up over there. Moving on, what you know about InfoSec overall so far? So you already talked about SOC team, right? You understood various roles. How does they work? Um, each role, how does each role works basically? You might be wondering like how does each role connect with each other. um, you know so let's figure that out. You might be wondering, okay, security analyst is like the most important role, and they usually connect with everything else in the SOC. But that's not true actually. Every internal team in the SOCs connect with each other. For example, incident response, a threat hunter team, they want to share reports with each other that hey, these are kind of incidents we are observing. Can run a threat hunt for that. Similar threat hunt team can run report back incidents to incident response team that hey, we are observing this. Can you deep dive into this and other stuff like that. Similarly, threat intel team can also share their threat feeds that that they are observing in the space, and similarly, threat hunting team can also share the reports back to threat intel team for improving their knowledge base. Similarly, feeds and reports exchange between threat intel team as well and the malware analyst team. Samples and reports exchange between forensics team and malware analysis team. And similarly, endpoints data, like which endpoints to investigate, right? That's usually shared from incident response team, forensics teams, and forensics teams can be coming back with the finding that hey, these are what are things we observed. So uh, this gives you a little idea that okay, how internally each team connects with each other towards working towards a same goal, which is improving the security of the company. So in the next video, I'll be talking about security administrators, which maintains the tool, ensure it's healthy and and working as per the um, like its scope and other stuff. So we're talking more about security administrator role or the team itself in detail in the next part. Thank you for watching.